I've been doing this blanket. It is Eeny from Eeny, Meeny of Change by ORandle. He puts of change as part of all his patterns. It's a paid pattern from Ravelry, and it's written for Red Heart Super Saver and a 6.5 millimeter hook. I used my Susan Bates. And yeah, Red Heart Super Saver, Aruba C, which is this one, Real Teal, which is this one, which is in actuality much greener than blue, and Dark Orchid. The pattern is written to use 2 colors. I decided to use 3 because I happen to have one of each of these 3 on hand, and it's written to use 3 full skeins. And I actually stopped at after row 31. There's 35, I think, in the pattern, but this is all I have left, and I am pretty close to certain that neither of these would go around again. I could probably go around once again with this, but I don't think I'd really gain anything by doing that. I think it's kind of nice just finished off the way it is, and if I change my mind at a later date, it's not that hard to go around again, because I haven't done anything other than stop. I haven't made any changes to the pattern. So the only thing to do now, well, there are 2 things to do now. One thing is to, oh, by the way, I have these laid out like this because I'm going to make a comment about Red Heart are the kind of skeins that you can pull from the center, although some people do try to pull every skein from the center, whether it's made as a pull skein or not, and then wonder why they have knots. But no, Red Heart Super Saver is actually made to be pulled. But the problem I have with that is this one has been unwound, this one has been pulled, and you know, the unwound one just keeps getting smaller, and it's still a nice tidy little bundle. The one that's pulled from the center turns into this limp floppy mess, and that's why some people have a mess in their yarn bin that I don't. But what I've found, if you have one of these messes, is if you fold it over and then you can wind the tail around it. I'm not going to do that right now because I need 2 hands to do that effectively, and one of them is holding this camera. So anyway, it was just a comment from why my preference. It is easier, depending on your situation, to pull it, but then you're wound up with that. So it's, you know, trade-off. One thing easier, the other thing easier. So this is pretty much a plain granny square with a few post stitches put into it. And I think you can see here they make diamond shapes. Diamond within a diamond within a diamond here, and a little diamond within a diamond here. So it's if you get the right angle of it, it's kind of cute. And then there are some holes along the outer side. I'm not real fond of big holes, but you know, some people like it, and the middle part is kind of solid if you actually want to use it for warmth. Want to use it as a lap blanket. I'm figuring this is going to be a donation to Project Lioness, and so it's you know, it's something that a child could carry around with them and just cuddle and have fun with. Doesn't necessarily have to be total warmth coverage. So anyway, the thing I was going to say, 2 things that it needs. One is it needs to have ends dealt with, and I know a lot of people say to do that as you go along, but personally I always leave my ends to the end unless there's some kind of peculiar stitching going on that absolutely has to be dealt with. But I leave them because I like to have the yarn be able to move when I block. And then I really sew the ends in. I take a darning needle and I sew those suckers in. Because if it's going to kids and they're in, they're in hospital or foster care or whatever with Project Linus. And so, the thing's going to get some rough handling. It's going to be tossed in a washing machine. It's not going to be spread out to dry, hand washed, anything like that. So when I sew the ends in, I try to make sure that they're going to survive whatever's done to them. But anyway, so it doesn't need that much done to it as far as blocking goes, but I just don't like when the corners do this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn a hairdryer on it, and I'm going to flatten that. And the rest of this is just going to get some hand flattening. But so that's all there is to this, and it's going to be sewn in, ends sewn in, and be ready. And I think Joanne Fabric and Crafts used to be a collection point for these. I'm not sure if it still is. I'll have to check before I drop that off. So anyway, I don't know if anybody wants to listen to me turn on a hairdryer and block this, but that's what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to show one more look at this, why I want to block it, these curling edges. And then I'm going to pause this time because I don't think anybody needs to really listen to my dryer. This has been warmed up, and I'm just pressing it down now with my hand, which I'm sure you could probably guess that was my hand by looking at it, but just in case, that's what it is. It's my hand. And so I'm just pressing that edge down. Now, some people will say with Red Heart Super Saver, I never block it, I just throw it in the dryer. And that is perfectly valid if you actually happen to own a dryer, but I don't. And things are done for me at the local coin laundry. They have a service where if you drop it off for a very reasonable price, they will do it for you. And so yeah, that's why I am doing this, which other people would say throw it in the dryer, and you just warm it up. That's all acrylic needs, is just warm it up. But the trick to that is after you warm it up, you lay it down, you spread it out nicely, let it cool, and then don't heat it up again after that, because otherwise it'll just keep pulling in all directions and it won't be very nice, I think. I have one that has been overheated, a knitted one. Actually, it's this one over here, and it kind of looks pretty sad now, but that happens, it happens sometimes when other people have to do things for you. By the way, anyone who has seen my craft room before, hey, the stove is gone. There is no longer a stove in my craft room. It has gone back to the kitchen where it belongs. And actually been hooked up and is actually in usable condition. So, hey, that's a point I've won. So it's not like I have anybody else to blame for it. Well, I do have somebody to blame for it, but that's another story. So anyway, that's what I was doing this morning, and I guess that's where I'm going to stop, because not much more to do with this except sew in the ends, and I'm not going to do that right at this moment because it's still warm. So